My name is Sarah Chen, and I'm 29 years old. 3 years ago, I walked into my childhood bedroom to find all my belongings in trash bags on the lawn. My father stood at the door with his arms crossed and said 9 words that shattered my world. "You made your choice. Now live with it." No warning, no discussion, just complete erasure from the only family I'd ever known. I had no idea that the elderly woman who found me crying on a park bench that afternoon would become my grandmother in every way that matters. I had no idea that 3 years later, she'd be holding my newborn son while my biological parents stood outside the hospital, banned from meeting their first grandchild, finally understanding what it means to be forgotten. Before I tell you what happened, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story resonates with you. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time is it there. Now, let me take you back to the day everything changed.
I remember exactly where I was standing when my life fell apart. May 15th, a Saturday morning. I was 26 years old, packing my car in my parents' driveway in San Francisco. The sun was shining, birds were singing, and I had no idea I was about to lose everything. Let me back up. My parents, David and Susan Chun, were what you'd call traditional. My father was a software engineer, my mother a pharmacist. They immigrated from Taiwan before I was born, worked incredibly hard, and built a successful life in America. They had very specific ideas about what success looked like, and I was supposed to be their perfect daughter. From the time I could walk, my life was mapped out. Piano lessons at age 4. Mandarin school every Saturday. Math tutoring even though my grades were perfect. My father used to say, "Second place is first loser." My mother would add, "Chin family doesn't accept mediocrity." I got straight A's. I was valedictorian. I got into Stanford to study computer science, just like Dad wanted. I did everything right. Everything they asked. I was the obedient daughter, the one who never talked back, never questioned, never disappointed. But there was one thing I couldn't give them. I couldn't become the person they wanted me to marry. When I was 24, fresh out of Stanford, my parents introduced me to James Wu, son of my father's business partner. Stanford graduate like me. Software engineer at Google. On paper, he was perfect. In person, he was cold, dismissive, and made it clear he saw me as a business arrangement, not a partner. We dated for 6 months because my parents insisted. 6 months of awkward dinners where James talked about stock options and barely asked me a single question about myself. 6 months of my mother planning a wedding I never agreed to. 6 months of feeling like I was suffocating. I tried to tell them gently, "Mom, Dad, I don't think James and I are compatible." My father didn't even look up from his newspaper. Marriage isn't about feelings, Sarah. It's about building a stable future. But I don't love him. My mother's face hardened. Love comes later. Respect and stability come first. James is from a good family. He has excellent prospects. What more do you want? What I wanted was to be seen, to be heard, to matter as a person, not just as a chess piece in their life plan. Then I met Daniel Rodriguez. I met him at a coffee shop in the Mission District. I was working on a freelance design project, my secret passion that I pursued on weekends when my parents thought I was doing extra work at my software job. Daniel was a teacher, sitting at the next table, grading papers with a red pen and muttering to himself about dangling modifiers. He looked up and caught me smiling at his commentary. "Sorry," he grinned. "8th graders and grammar. It's a losing battle." "Sounds frustrating," I said. "It's actually wonderful." His eyes lit up. Every time one of them finally gets it, finally understands how to express themselves clearly, it's like watching a light turn on. That's why I teach. We talked for 3 hours. About books, about teaching, about my secret love of graphic design. He asked me questions. Real questions. What makes you happy? What do you dream about when you're not working? Who are you when no one's watching? No one had ever asked me those things before. We started meeting at that coffee shop every week. Then twice a week. Then every day. Daniel was kind, funny, passionate about helping kids. He made $38,000 a year as a public school teacher and lived in a tiny apartment with 2 roommates. He was also the first person who ever made me feel like I could breathe. 6 months later, he asked me to marry him in that same coffee shop. No expensive ring, just a simple silver band with a tiny stone. "I know I can't give you much," he said, "but I can give you all of me. Every day. For the rest of our lives. I said yes without hesitation. That was my first mistake. My second was thinking my parents would understand. I went home that evening, my heart racing, the ring hidden in my pocket. Mom and Dad were in the living room. James was there too. Apparently, there was some kind of family dinner I'd forgotten about. Sarah, finally. My mother stood up. James has news. James cleared his throat, looking uncomfortable. I've been promoted to senior engineer. I'm making $280,000 now. I think it's time we set a wedding date. Everyone looked at me expectantly. This was the moment. I could feel the weight of it, the before and after, the line I was about to cross that I could never uncross. I can't marry you, James. My voice was shaky but clear. I'm engaged to someone else. The silence was deafening. My father stood up slowly. What did you say? I'm engaged. His name is Daniel Rodriguez. He's a teacher and he's wonderful and I love him. Rodriguez? My mother's voice was sharp. That's not Chinese. No, he's not Chinese. He's Mexican-American. And that doesn't matter. My father's face turned red. Are you insane? You're throwing away James Wu for a teacher? Do you know how much teachers make? I don't care about money, Dad. Then you're a fool. He stepped closer. I didn't work 70-hour weeks, so my daughter could throw her life away on some poor man who will never be able to provide for her. Daniel provides plenty. He provides love and respect and... Respect? My mother laughed bitterly. You want to talk about respect? You disrespect this family. You disrespect everything we've built. Everything we've given you. I'm grateful for everything, but I need to live my own life. Your own life? My father's voice rose. We gave you that life. We paid for your education, your clothes, your food, your car. Everything you have is because of us. And this is how you repay us. James stood up awkwardly. Maybe I should go. Sit down, my father ordered. Then to me. You will break up with this Rodriguez person. You will marry James. This discussion is over. No. The word came out stronger than I expected. I'm 26 years old. I'm not a child. I'm marrying Daniel. My mother started crying. Loud, theatrical sobs. How can you do this to me? After everything? I gave up my career to raise you. I sacrificed everything. I didn't ask you to sacrifice anything, Mom. Ungrateful. My father's voice went cold. Selfish. Ungrateful child. I'm not ungrateful. I'm just choosing my own happiness. Then choose. My father crossed his arms. Daniel or this family. You can't have both. I stared at him. You're giving me an ultimatum? I'm telling you the consequences of your choices. If you marry this man, you are no longer my daughter. My mother nodded through her tears. You will be dead to us. I looked at James, who wouldn't meet my eyes. I looked at my parents, standing united against me like I was the enemy. Then I guess I'm choosing Daniel. I turned and walked upstairs to my childhood bedroom. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely pack. I threw clothes into a suitcase, grabbed my laptop, my books, the few things that mattered. When I came back downstairs with my bags, my father was waiting by the door. Leave your car keys. The car is in my name. Leave your phone. I pay that bill. Leave your credit cards. Those are on my accounts. I pulled everything from my purse and set it on the table. My hands were steady now. I was numb. You're making the biggest mistake of your life, he said. Maybe, I replied. But it's my mistake to make. I walked out the door and didn't look back. Daniel picked me up 2 hours later. I was sitting on a bench 3 blocks from my parents' house, my suitcase beside me, my phone gone, no wallet, no car, no plan. He pulled up in his beat-up Honda Civic and just held me while I cried. He didn't say, I told you so. He didn't ask if I was sure. He just held me and said, we'll figure it out together. I moved into his tiny apartment. His roommates, 2 other teachers named Marcus and Jenny, welcomed me without question. They cleared out half of Marcus's closet for my things. Jenny made me coffee every morning. They treated me like family when my actual family had thrown me away. But the reality hit hard. I'd left my job at the tech company 2 months earlier to pursue freelance design work. My parents had been furious about that too. Now I had no steady income, no savings because everything had been in accounts my father controlled, no car, and no safety net. Daniel was making $38,000 a year. We were living on nothing. I found work where I could. Freelance design projects that paid pennies. Waitressing shifts at a diner. I'd gone from a comfortable life in my parents' house to counting quarters to buy ramen noodles. But Daniel never complained. Not once. He'd come home exhausted from teaching all day and quiz me about my design projects, genuinely interested in what I was creating. He'd bring home student artwork to show me. Look what Maria drew today. She's got real talent. At night, we'd curl up on our secondhand couch and plan our tiny wedding. We couldn't afford much. Maybe the park. Maybe just our friends. Maybe just us at the courthouse and pizza after. I'm sorry I can't give you the wedding you deserve, Daniel said one night. This is exactly the wedding I deserve, I told him. Because it's with you. I tried not to think about my parents. I tried not to check their social media. But late at night, when Daniel was asleep, I'd borrow Jenny's phone and look. My mother had posted, "Sometimes children break your heart. Praying for wisdom and patience." My father had shared an article about the dangers of marrying outside your culture. They'd told everyone I'd made a terrible mistake, that I'd been brainwashed, that I'd thrown away a brilliant future for nothing. The extended family took sides. My uncle called me selfish. My aunt said I was breaking my mother's heart. My cousins stopped responding to my messages. I was erased. Completely. Like 26 years of being their daughter meant nothing. The wedding was set for October 12th. 3 months after I'd left home. We'd planned a simple ceremony at a community garden, just our closest friends. Daniel's parents were flying in from Arizona. They couldn't wait to meet me, he said. They were so happy their son had found love. I tried not to be jealous of his relationship with his family. 2 weeks before the wedding, I was working a shift at the diner when my phone rang. Well, Jenny's old phone that I'd been borrowing. I didn't recognize the number. Hello, Sarah Chun. A woman's voice, professional. Yes, this is Dr. Patricia Morrison from San Francisco General Hospital. I'm calling about your mother, Susan Chun. My heart stopped. What happened? She was brought in this morning with chest pain. We've stabilized her, but she's asking for you. Can you come to the hospital? I looked at my manager. She saw my face and nodded. Go. I ran the 12 blocks to the hospital because I didn't have money for an Uber. By the time I got there, I was sweating and out of breath. Susan Chun, I gasped at the reception desk. I'm her daughter. The nurse checked her computer. Room 304. 3rd floor. I took the elevator up, my heart pounding. Whatever had happened between us, she was still my mother. I still loved her. Maybe this was the moment everything would change. Maybe almost losing her would make them realize that family was more important than pride. I pushed open the door to room 304. My mother was sitting up in bed, looking pale but stable. My father sat in the chair beside her. And James who stood by the window. Sarah. My mother's voice was weak. You came. Of course I came. Are you okay? What happened? Anxiety attack, my father said flatly. The doctor said it was stress-induced. I moved closer to the bed. Mom, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to cause you stress. Then come home. My mother reached for my hand. Come home and fix this. I held her hand gently. I am home. With Daniel. She pulled her hand away. Still. After everything? You're still choosing him. I looked at my father, at James, and suddenly I understood. You're not sick, are you? This was a test. My mother's face hardened. I needed to know if you still cared about your family. This is manipulation. This is love, my father said. We're trying to save you from ruining your life. James stepped forward. Sarah, I'm willing to forgive this whole episode. We can still get married. Your parents explained that you were going through some kind of crisis. I understand. We all make mistakes. I looked at this man who thought my love for Daniel was a mistake. A crisis. An episode. I need to go. Sarah, wait. My mother started crying again. If you walk out that door, if you marry that man, you will regret it for the rest of your life. We will not be there. We will not support you. We will not know your children. You will be alone. The threat hung in the air. Alone. I'd been alone for 3 months already. Alone without their money. Alone without their approval. Alone without their love that came with so many conditions I could never meet them all. But I hadn't been lonely. Not once. Goodbye, Mom. I hope you feel better. I walked out of that hospital room, and I didn't look back. I made it 2 blocks before I broke down. I sat on a bench in a small park, crying so hard I couldn't breathe. An elderly woman was sitting on the other end of the bench, feeding pigeons from a paper bag. Honey, she said softly. Are you all right? I looked up. She was maybe 70, with silver hair pulled back in a bun, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. and a face that looked like it had smiled a lot over the years. "I'm fine," I said automatically. "Sorry. I'll move." "Stay." She patted the bench. "Sometimes we all need a good cry. I'm Olivia. Olivia O'Sullivan." "Sarah," I managed. She offered me a tissue from her purse. "Want to talk about it?" I didn't know this woman, but something about her reminded me of the grandmother I'd never had. Both my grandparents had died before I was born. So I told her everything. About my parents' ultimatum. About Daniel. About the hospital manipulation. About being 26 years old and feeling like I'd lost everything. Olivia listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "My husband's name was Patrick," she said finally. "He was Irish Catholic. I was Jewish. When we got engaged in 1952, both our families sat Shiva for us. Do you know what that means?" I shook my head. "It means they mourned us as if we'd died. We weren't welcome at family gatherings. We weren't in family photos. For 10 years, we were ghosts. What happened? We built our own family." She smiled. "Patrick and I, we made a life together. We had 3 children. We celebrated both Hanukkah and Christmas. We created our own traditions. And eventually, slowly, some family members came around. Some never did. And we learned to be okay with that." "How did you survive those 10 years?" "We found family where we could." She gestured to the park around us. "Friends who became sisters. Neighbors who became aunts and uncles. Family isn't just blood, sweetie. It's the people who show up." I wiped my eyes. "I'm getting married in 2 weeks. My fiancé is wonderful. But I keep thinking about walking down the aisle with no parents there. No family at all." Olivia looked at me thoughtfully. "What if you did have family there?" "I don't have anyone. You have me." She said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "I'd be honored to be there. If you'd like." I stared at this stranger who'd just offered to attend my wedding. "You don't even know me." "I know enough." She squeezed my hand. "I know you're brave. I know you chose love over fear. That's all I need to know." 2 weeks later, I stood in a tiny changing room at the community center, adjusting my simple white dress. It was from a thrift store, $25, but Jenny had helped me tailor it and add lace to the sleeves. I felt beautiful. Through the door, I could hear people gathering. Daniel's parents, warm and welcoming from the moment we'd met. His roommates, our small circle of friends, maybe 30 people total. And Olivia O'Sullivan. She'd called me 3 days after we met. "I hope this isn't too forward, but I made something for you." She'd knitted me a shawl, cream-colored with delicate patterns. "Something borrowed, something blue," she explained. The yarn had tiny blue threads woven through it. "My mother taught me this pattern in 1945. I've been waiting for the right person to pass it on to." Now she knocked gently on the changing room door. "Sarah, may I come in?" "Of course." She stepped inside, looking elegant in a navy dress. In her hands was a small box. "I brought you something else. For your something old." I opened the box. Inside was a beautiful pearl necklace, clearly vintage. "Olivia, I can't accept this." "You can and you will." Her voice was firm but loving. "Patrick gave me these on our wedding day. His grandmother's pearls. They've been worn by brides in his family for 4 generations. But I have no daughters. No granddaughters. And I'd like you to have them." My eyes filled with tears. "But we just met. Sometimes the people we need most come into our lives exactly when we need them." She fastened the necklace around my neck. "You remind me of myself at your age. Brave. Determined. Willing to choose love even when it costs everything." I looked at myself in the mirror. The thrift store dress. Olivia's pearls. The shawl she'd made. I looked like a bride who was loved. "I wish my mother could see this," I whispered. "I know, sweetheart." Olivia pulled me into a hug. "But you know what? You're going to be okay. More than okay. You're going to be happy." There was a knock. Jenny poked her head in. "It's time." My heart started racing. "I don't have anyone to walk me down the aisle." Olivia smiled. "Yes, you do. If you'll have me." I grabbed her hand. "I'd be honored." The ceremony was held in the community garden, under an arch Marcus had built from branches and wildflowers. As Olivia walked me down the grass aisle, I saw Daniel waiting for me, his eyes already wet with tears. His parents beamed from the front row. Our friends smiled and wiped their eyes. I didn't look for my parents. I didn't scan the crowd hoping they'd change their minds. I was done waiting for people who'd made it clear I wasn't worth choosing. Instead, I looked at the people who were there. the ones who'd shown up. The ceremony was simple and beautiful. We'd written our own vows. Daniel went first. Sarah, 3 years ago you walked into a coffee shop and changed my life. You showed me that love isn't about what you have, it's about who you are. You chose me when you could have chosen comfort. You chose us when you could have chosen easy. I promised to choose you every single day for the rest of my life. Then it was my turn. My voice shook but held steady. Daniel, you're the first person who ever saw me. Not who my parents wanted me to be, not what I could do for someone else, but me. You asked me what makes me happy. You cared about my dreams. You made me believe I was worth loving exactly as I am. I choose you today and every day after. When we kissed, everyone cheered. Olivia was crying. Daniel's mother was crying. Even Marcus was wiping his eyes. At the tiny reception in the community center, Olivia sat at our small head table like she belonged there. Because she did. Daniel's father raised his glass for a toast. To my new daughter-in-law. Sarah, we're so glad our son found you. You're part of our family now. Then Olivia stood. If I may. Everyone turned to her. I haven't known Sarah long, she said. But sometimes you just know when someone is meant to be in your life. Sarah, you've got courage that most people never find. You chose love over fear, happiness over approval, freedom over comfort. That takes real strength. She raised her glass. To Sarah and Daniel, may your life be filled with the kind of love that makes all the sacrifice worth it. I hugged her tight when she sat down. Thank you for being here. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. After the reception, as we were cleaning up, Olivia pulled me aside. I want you to have my phone number. Call me anytime. I mean it. For anything. Olivia, you've already done so much. I'm serious, Sarah. I live alone in that big house Patrick and I bought 40 years ago. My children are scattered across the country. I'd love to have you and Daniel for dinner sometime. If you'd like. Something in her voice made me understand. She was lonely too. She'd lost Patrick 5 years ago, she'd mentioned. Her kids visited rarely. She was offering me family, but she also needed it. We'd love that, I said. How about next Sunday? Her face lit up. Really? Really? That was the first of many Sundays. Over the next year, Olivia became a constant in our lives. Sunday dinners at her beautiful Victorian house in the Sunset District. She taught me to cook her mother's recipes. She showed me photos of Patrick, telling stories about their life together, their struggles, their triumphs. We never had much money, she said one evening, showing me a photo of their tiny first apartment. Patrick was a bus driver. I was a secretary. But we were happy. That's what matters. Daniel and I were still struggling financially, but we were building something. I'd landed a few good design clients. Daniel had gotten a small raise. We'd moved into our own tiny studio apartment. And every Sunday we had Olivia. She came to Daniel's school events, cheering for his students like they were her own grandchildren. She brought cookies to his classroom. The kids called her Grandma Olivia. For my 28th birthday, she threw me a party. A real party with cake and decorations and thoughtful gifts. I cried because my parents had never thrown me a birthday party. They'd always said it was a waste of money. Everyone deserves to feel special on their birthday, Olivia said, hugging me. Especially you. One evening, about 18 months after the wedding, Daniel and I were at Olivia's house for dinner. We'd just finished eating when I felt a wave of nausea. I barely made it to the bathroom. When I came out, Olivia was waiting with ginger ale and crackers. How far along are you? I stared at her. I haven't even taken a test yet. She smiled knowingly. I had 3 children. I recognized the signs. Have you told Daniel? I just figured it out myself like 30 seconds ago. Well, she squeezed my hand. Congratulations, sweetheart. You're going to be wonderful parents. That night, Daniel and I took 3 pregnancy tests. All positive. We were having a baby. I cried happy tears and terrified tears all at once. We barely had enough money for ourselves. How would we afford a baby? But when we told Olivia the next Sunday, she just hugged us both and said, "We'll figure it out together." That's what family does. She was there for every doctor's appointment. She threw me a baby shower when I was 6 months pregnant. She spent weekends helping us set up the tiny nursery in our studio apartment. Olivia, you're doing too much, I protested as she hung curtains she'd made by hand. Nonsense. This is what grandmothers do. The word hung in the air. Grandmother. Is that okay? She asked quietly. If I think of myself that way? I hugged her tight. It's more than okay. It's perfect. My son, Thomas Patrick Rodriguez, was born on a rainy March morning. Daniel held my hand through 18 hours of labor. And when it was over, when they placed that tiny, perfect baby in my arms, the first person I called was Olivia. She arrived at the hospital an hour later with flowers and tears and so much love. "He's perfect," she whispered, holding Thomas gently. "Absolutely perfect." "We gave him Patrick's name," Daniel said, "as his middle name. If that's okay." Olivia couldn't speak. She just nodded, tears streaming down her face. For 2 weeks, she came to our apartment every day, helping with the baby, bringing food, teaching me how to swaddle and burp, and all the things I didn't know. She was patient and kind and everything a grandmother should be. "Did you tell your parents?" she asked one afternoon while Thomas slept. I hadn't. I'd thought about it, wondered if becoming a grandmother might soften my mother's heart. But I couldn't risk it. "No," I said. "And I don't think I will." Olivia nodded. "That's your choice to make. Just know that whatever you decide, I'm here." But someone else made the choice for me. Thomas was 3 months old when my parents found out. I still don't know exactly how. Maybe a mutual acquaintance saw my Instagram post. Maybe one of my cousins who'd stayed silent but hadn't blocked me shared it. However it happened, they knew. I was at the grocery store with Thomas strapped to my chest in a carrier, trying to juggle a shopping basket and a fussy baby, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Hello. Sarah." My mother's voice. I hadn't heard it in almost 2 years. I froze in the middle of the cereal aisle. "Mom, is it true? Do you have a baby?" My hand instinctively went to Thomas's back. Protective. "Yes." Silence. Then, "A boy or a girl?" "A boy. His name is Thomas." "Thomas." She repeated it like she was testing how it felt. "I'm a grandmother and I didn't even know. You made it very clear you didn't want to be part of my life." "That's not fair, Sarah. You're the one who chose to leave. You're the one who cut us off." I almost laughed. "Almost. I need to go." "Wait. Please." Her voice cracked. "Can I meet him? Can we meet our grandson?" Every instinct screamed no. But there was a tiny part of me, the little girl who'd spent her whole life seeking her mother's approval, that wondered. Maybe becoming grandparents changed them. Maybe this was the bridge back. "I need to think about it." "Sarah, please. He's our grandson. Our blood. You can't keep him from us. I can do whatever I think is best for my son." I hung up before she could respond. That night, Daniel found me in Thomas's room, watching our son sleep. "You okay?" I told him about the call. He sat down beside me, quiet for a long moment. "What do you want to do?" he finally asked. "I don't know. Part of me wants to give them a chance. They're his grandparents. They gave up that right when they gave up on you. But what if they've changed? What if having a grandchild makes them see things differently?" Daniel pulled me close. "Then they can prove it. Over time. With actions, not just words. But you don't owe them anything, Sarah. Especially not access to our son." I called Olivia the next morning. She'd become my sounding board for everything. "What does your gut tell you?" she asked. "My gut says it's a trap. My heart says maybe they deserve a chance." "Your gut is usually right." She paused. "But if you need to try, if you need to know for certain, I understand. Just protect yourself. And protect Thomas." 3 days later, I agreed to meet my parents at a neutral location. A coffee shop in the marina. Public. Safe. I brought Daniel and Thomas. I needed my family with me. They were already there when we arrived. My mother stood up the moment she saw us, her eyes locked on the baby carrier. "Sarah." She moved toward me, arms outstretched. I stepped back instinctively. "Hi, Mom." "Dad." My father nodded stiffly. He looked older. Grayer. Tired. We sat down at a table by the window. My mother couldn't take her eyes off Thomas. "Can I hold him?" she asked. "Not yet." My voice was firm. "We need to talk first." She sat back, hurt flashing across her face. "Of course." Awkward silence. My father finally spoke. "You look well." "Thank you." More silence. This was excruciating. "We've missed you," my mother said. "Every day. The house feels so empty without you. You told me I'd be dead to you if I married Daniel." I was upset. I said things I didn't mean. "Did you?" I looked at her steadily. "Because you had almost 2 years to take them back. You didn't call on my wedding day. You didn't call on my birthday. You didn't check if I was alive or dead. So which part didn't you mean?" My father shifted uncomfortably. "Your mother is trying to apologize." "Is she?" "Because I haven't heard the word sorry yet." My mother's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. Of course I'm sorry. You're my daughter. I love you. You love the idea of me, I said quietly. The daughter who does what she's told. The one who marries who you choose and lives the life you planned. You never loved the real me. That's not true. Then tell me one thing you know about the real me. Not what I studied or what I achieved. Something about who I am. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. You're very intelligent. That's not who I am. That's a trait. She looked helpless. My father looked away. Thomas started fussing. Daniel gently rocked the carrier, but my mother reached out. Please, let me hold my grandson. He's not your grandson. The words came out before I could stop them. You don't get to erase 2 years of silence and suddenly claim him because he's convenient. He's my blood. Blood doesn't make you family. Showing up makes you family. My mother's face hardened. There it was. The real her, under the tears and the apologies. We came here to reconcile, she said. To fix this family. But you're still so stubborn. Still so determined to make everything difficult. There it is. I stood up. I'm difficult because I have boundaries. I'm stubborn because I won't let you control me anymore. Sarah, sit down. My father's voice had that old commanding tone. We're not finished talking. Yes, we are. I picked up the carrier. You want to be part of Thomas's life? Here's what that looks like. You respect my marriage. You respect my husband. You respect my choices. And you prove over months, maybe years, that you've actually changed. That's ridiculous, my mother said. We're his grandparents. Olivia O'Sullivan is his grandmother. She was there when he was born. She changes his diapers and sings him to sleep. She shows up. You're just two people who share some DNA. My mother's face went pale. Who is Olivia O'Sullivan? The woman who became my family when you stopped being it. I walked out of that coffee shop and I felt lighter. I'd given them a chance. They'd shown me exactly who they still were. But I should have known they wouldn't give up that easily. 2 weeks later, Olivia called me, her voice shaking. Sarah, someone came to my house today. An Asian couple. They said they were Thomas's grandparents. My blood ran cold. What did they say? They wanted to know who I was. Why I was in your life. They said I was manipulating you, keeping you from your real family. She paused. Sarah, they threatened to call social services. They said you were unfit to care for Thomas and that I was enabling it. I couldn't breathe. They what? They're going to try to take him, sweetheart. I've seen this before in my volunteer work with family services. Grandparents can petition for visitation rights, especially if they claim the parents are unfit. Daniel heard my side of the conversation. His face went dark. They're not taking our son. I spent the next 3 days barely sleeping, researching grandparents' rights, consulting with a lawyer Olivia recommended. The lawyer was reassuring but cautious. They can file, she explained, but they'd have to prove you're unfit or that they had a substantial relationship with the child that's been disrupted. They have neither. However, the process can be expensive and stressful. So what do? Document everything. Every interaction. Every threat. And consider getting a restraining order if they escalate. They escalated. My mother started posting on Facebook. Vague posts about grandparents' rights and being kept from family. She shared articles about parental alienation. She made herself the victim. Family members I hadn't spoken to in years started messaging me. How could you keep a baby from his grandparents? Family is everything. Your mother is heartbroken. None of them asked my side. None of them asked why. Then my father showed up at Daniel's school. He waited in the parking lot after classes ended. When Daniel walked to his car, my father approached him. We need to talk, he said. Daniel called me immediately, putting me on speaker. Mr. Chin, if you want to talk, it needs to be through lawyers. I don't want lawyers. I want my daughter back. Then you should have thought about that before you disowned her. I'm prepared to make things right. My father's voice was cold, calculated. I'll pay off your debts. I'll buy you a house. I'll set up a college fund for Thomas. All you have to do is convince Sarah to let us be part of his life. Daniel's voice was steady. You're trying to buy your way in. I'm trying to provide for my family. Isn't that what you want? To give Sarah and Thomas a better life. Sarah has a better life. Because she's free from you. She's living in poverty because of you. She's living in happiness because of herself. There was a long pause. Then my father said something that made my blood run cold. You took my daughter from me. I could take your son from you. Think about that. Daniel hung up and drove straight home. We called the lawyer immediately. She drafted a cease and desist letter and helped us file for a restraining order. The hearing was set for 3 weeks later. In the meantime, I barely slept. Every car that drove by our apartment made me jump. Every unknown number made my heart race. I was terrified they'd try to take Thomas. Olivia stayed with us most nights. "I'm not leaving you alone through this," she said firmly. "You're my family." The night before the hearing, I broke down completely. What if they win? What if the judge thinks I'm being unreasonable? What if they take him? Olivia held me while I sobbed. "Listen to me. You are a good mother. You're protecting your child from people who hurt you. No judge is going to punish you for that. But they're going to say terrible things about me. They're going to make me sound like the villain. Let them. The truth is on your side." Daniel came and sat with us. "Sarah, whatever happens tomorrow, we face it together. All of us." He looked at Olivia. "All of us." She squeezed my hand. Family sticks together. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Fluorescent lights, gray walls, wooden benches that had seen too many family battles. My parents sat on one side with their lawyer, a sharp-looking woman in an expensive suit. Daniel, Olivia, and I sat on the other with our lawyer, Jennifer Chun, no relation, who specialized in family law. My mother wore pearls and a modest dress. She looked like the perfect grandmother. My father sat stiffly beside her, his face unreadable. I held Thomas close. He was 5 months old now, oblivious to the fight being waged over him. Olivia reached over and squeezed my free hand. "All rise." Judge Helena Martinez entered. She was a Latina woman in her 60s with kind eyes and an air of having seen everything twice. "Please be seated. This is a petition for grandparent visitation filed by David and Susan Chun regarding the minor child, Thomas Patrick Rodriguez." She looked over her glasses at both sides. "Let me be clear from the start. This court prioritizes the best interests of the child above all else. Grandparents' rights are not automatic in California. You'll need to prove a substantial pre-existing relationship with the child or that the parents are unfit." "Understood." My parents' lawyer stood. "Yes, Your Honor." "Proceed." The lawyer started with an emotional appeal. "Your Honor, my clients are loving grandparents who simply want to be part of their grandson's life. They've been completely shut out by their daughter due to a family disagreement. Thomas deserves to know his grandparents, his heritage, his culture." She called my mother to the stand first. "Mrs. Chun, can you describe your relationship with your daughter before this estrangement?" My mother dabbed her eyes with a tissue. "We were very close. I gave Sarah everything. The best education, opportunities, support. I sacrificed my career to raise her." "And what caused the separation?" "Sarah became involved with a man we felt wasn't appropriate for her. We had concerns about her future, her financial stability. We expressed those concerns, and she cut us off completely." "Did you attend her wedding?" "We weren't invited." "How did that make you feel?" "Devastated. Heartbroken. Sarah was my only child, and I missed her wedding." I whispered to Jennifer. She told me I was dead to her. Jennifer made a note. "And when did you learn about your grandson?" 3 months after he was born. A friend showed me a social media post. I called Sarah immediately, hoping we could reconcile. She refused to let us meet Thomas. "How has this affected you?" My mother's voice broke. "I think about him every day. My grandson is growing up without knowing us, without knowing his heritage. It's cruel." She stepped down. I watched the judge's face. Neutral. Unreadable. My father was called next. He was stiffer, less emotional, but his testimony followed the same script. They were concerned parents. I was stubborn and vengeful. They just wanted to know their grandson. Then their lawyer dropped a bomb. "Your Honor, we'd like to submit evidence that Ms. Rodriguez, formerly Chun, is financially unstable and living in inadequate conditions for a child." Jennifer shot to her feet. "Objection. This hearing is about visitation, not custody." "It goes to the child's best interests," their lawyer argued. "If the child is living in poverty while the grandparents could provide substantial support." "I'll allow it," Judge Martinez said. "But tread carefully." They submitted photos of our studio apartment. The tiny nursery squeezed into one corner. Our second-hand furniture. They had our bank statements somehow, showing our modest income. "The child is living in a 400-square-foot apartment," their lawyer stated. "The parents are struggling financially. Meanwhile, my clients own a 4-bedroom home in Pacific Heights. They can provide opportunities these parents cannot." I felt sick. They were trying to make us look negligent. Finally, it was our turn. Jennifer called me to the stand. I handed Thomas to Olivia, my hands shaking. Ms. Rodriguez, let's start with the day you left your parents' home. Can you tell us what happened? I took a deep breath and told the truth. All of it. The controlling behavior. The ultimatum. The manipulation at the hospital. The 2 years of complete silence. Did your parents attempt to contact you during those 2 years? No. Not once. Not on your birthday. Not on holidays. Nothing. And when they learned about Thomas, what was their first communication? My mother called demanding to meet him. She said I couldn't keep him from them because he was their blood. Did they apologize for the estrangement? Eventually, yes. After I agreed to meet them. But when we met, it became clear they hadn't changed. They still didn't respect my marriage or my choices. Can you describe what happened after that meeting? I detailed everything. The Facebook posts. My father cornering Daniel at his school. The threats. What specifically did your father say to your husband? I looked at the judge. He said, "You took my daughter from me. I could take your son from you." The courtroom went silent. Judge Martinez looked at my father. "Is this true, Mr. Chin?" My father shifted. I was upset. I didn't mean. It's a yes or no question. Yes. But I was speaking emotionally. Threatening to take someone's child is never appropriate, emotional or otherwise. She made a note. Jennifer continued. Ms. Rodriguez, you mentioned someone named Olivia O'Sullivan. Who is she? She's my family. I looked at Olivia in the gallery. We met by chance 3 years ago. She's been there for every important moment since. My wedding, my pregnancy, Thomas's birth. She's his grandmother in every way that matters. Objection, their lawyer said. That's not a legal relationship. Actually, Jennifer said smoothly, I'd like to call Mrs. O'Sullivan to the stand. Olivia walked up with quiet dignity. She was sworn in. Mrs. O'Sullivan, how did you meet Sarah? She was crying on a park bench. She'd just been manipulated by her parents at a hospital. I offered her a tissue and an ear. And your relationship developed from there? Yes. I invited her and Daniel to dinner. They became part of my life. When Thomas was born, Sarah asked if I'd be his grandmother. I said yes. Do you have a legal relationship? Not yet. But Sarah and I have discussed adult adoption. I've been meaning to finalize it, but life got busy with the baby. I blinked. We talked about it once, casually. I didn't know Olivia had been serious. Jennifer smiled. So you're willing to legally become Sarah's mother? Absolutely. She's already my daughter in my heart. The paperwork is just making it official. My mother made a sound from across the room. The judge looked at her sharply. Mrs. O'Sullivan, Jennifer continued, you have experience with family law? I volunteered with family services for 30 years after my husband passed. I've seen many cases of grandparents weaponizing visitation to control their adult children. Objection. Their lawyer stood. Speculation. I'll rephrase, Jennifer said. In your professional observation, have you witnessed cases where grandparents use the legal system to maintain control over their estranged children? Yes. Many times. The pattern is always the same. Demands disguised as love. Threats disguised as concern. Control disguised as family loyalty. And do you see that pattern here? Olivia looked directly at my parents. Yes, I do. She stepped down. Daniel was called next. He testified about my father's threat, about the harassment, about how happy and healthy Thomas was in our home. Is your son loved? Jennifer asked. Completely. By me, by Sarah, by Olivia, by my parents who visit from Arizona. He has family who chose him, not family who see him as property. Then Jennifer did something unexpected. She called Daniel's mother, Elena Rodriguez, via video conference. Elena appeared on a screen, calling from Arizona. I've met Sarah's parents once, she testified. At that coffee shop meeting. They barely looked at Daniel. They didn't ask him a single question. They treated him like he wasn't there. That told me everything I needed to know about how they'd treat my grandson. Do you support Sarah's decision to limit contact? Completely. In our culture, family is everything. But family that hurts you isn't family. It's just people you happen to share blood with. Finally, Jennifer addressed the judge directly. Your Honor, my client isn't denying her parents access out of spite. She's protecting her child from people who have shown, repeatedly, that they view him as a possession, not a person. They didn't want a relationship with Thomas when it required respecting his parents. They only showed interest when he was born, when he became something they could use to control Sarah. She paused. Grandparents' rights exist to maintain important relationships that benefit the child. But there is no pre-existing relationship here. Thomas has never met these people. They've made no effort to repair the relationship with his parents. They've only made threats and demands. Furthermore, Thomas has a grandmother. Olivia O'Sullivan has been present since before his birth. She's the one who deserves legal recognition, not two people who abandoned their daughter and now want access to her son on their terms. Judge Martinez sat back. I've heard enough. I'll take a short recess and return with my decision. The wait was agony. 15 minutes felt like 15 hours. Olivia held Thomas while Daniel and I sat in the hallway, hands clasped. Whatever happens, Daniel said, we'll appeal. We'll fight this. I know. When we were called back in, Judge Martinez looked at both sides. I've presided over many grandparents' rights cases. The law exists because sometimes grandparents provide stability and love when parents cannot. But this is not one of those cases. My mother gripped my father's hand. Mr. and Mrs. Chun, you didn't just have a disagreement with your daughter. You issued an ultimatum. You told her she was dead to you. You didn't contact her for 2 years. You showed no interest in her life, her marriage, her well-being. And when you learned about your grandson, your first instinct wasn't to apologize or make amends. It was to demand access. She looked at the documentation. You then harassed her husband at his workplace. You made threats about taking the child. You attempted to use your financial resources to paint these parents as unfit when all evidence shows Thomas is healthy, loved, and well cared for. My mother was crying, silent tears running down her face. This court will not reward that behavior. Petition for grandparent visitation is denied. I felt Daniel's hand tighten on mine. Olivia let out a soft breath of relief. Furthermore, the judge continued, I'm granting the restraining order. Mr. and Mrs. Chun, you are to have no contact with Sarah Rodriguez, Daniel Rodriguez, or the minor child Thomas Rodriguez. No calls, no visits, no social media contact, no third-party contact. If you violate this order, you will be held in contempt. My father stood up. Your Honor, please. Sit down, Mr. Chun. I'm not finished. He sat. I'm also ordering you to cease all public statements about this case. No more Facebook posts, no more social media campaigns. If I see any attempt to harass this family publicly, I will hold you in contempt for that as well. She looked at me. Ms. Rodriguez, you and Mrs. O'Sullivan mentioned adult adoption. I strongly encourage you to pursue that if it's something you both want. This court recognizes that family is built, not just born. She banged her gavel. This hearing is adjourned. We stood in the hallway afterward, Daniel holding Thomas, Olivia with her arms around both of us. I couldn't stop shaking. It's over, Jennifer said, smiling. You won. But across the hall, my mother was sobbing into my father's shoulder. He looked at me over her head. For a moment, our eyes met. He looked defeated, broken, old, and I felt nothing. Not victory, not vindication, just a quiet, settled peace. They'd made their choices. I'd made mine. The judge had simply confirmed what I already knew. Family isn't blood. It's love. It's showing up. It's choosing each other every single day. 3 months after the court hearing, Olivia and I sat in a different courtroom. This one felt lighter somehow, warmer. Jennifer was with us again, but this time she was smiling. Adult adoption is beautiful, she'd told us during the preparation. It's two people choosing to make legal what the heart already knows. Daniel sat in the gallery with Thomas, now 8 months old and babbling happily. Daniel's parents had flown in from Arizona for the occasion. They'd insisted. When family becomes official, we show up, Elena had said firmly. The process had taken months. Background checks, home visits, interviews, paperwork. Olivia had sailed through everything. She was 72 years old, a retired volunteer with family services, beloved in her community, and completely devoted to me and Thomas. During one of the home visits, the social worker had asked Olivia, "Why do you want to do this? You could just remain close without the legal ties." Olivia had looked at her like the answer was obvious. Because Sarah deserves to have a mother who chose her. She deserves to have it in writing, legal and permanent, that she is wanted, that she belongs. The social worker had written something down, nodding. Later, Jennifer told me the report said, "This is exactly what adult adoption was designed for." Now, Judge Patricia O'Brien, a warm woman in her 50s, reviewed the final documents. "Adult adoption is one of my favorite cases to hear," she said, looking at us both over her reading glasses. It restores my faith in humanity. Ms. Chun, excuse me, Ms. Rodriguez, you understand that if this adoption is approved, Olivia O'Sullivan will become your legal mother in all respects. Yes, Your Honor. And Mrs. O'Sullivan, you understand that Sarah will become your legal daughter, with all rights of inheritance, next of kin status, everything? Yes, Your Honor. Olivia's voice was steady, but her eyes were wet. And you're both certain this is what you want. We looked at each other. I thought about that park bench 3 years ago. The tissue she'd offered. The kindness that had changed everything. I've never been more certain of anything, I said. Neither have I, Olivia added. Judge O'Brien smiled. Then it gives me great pleasure to grant this petition. As of today, Sarah Chin Rodriguez is legally the daughter of Olivia and O'Sullivan. Congratulations to you both. Olivia pulled me into a hug. We were both crying. Happy tears this time. I have a daughter, she whispered. I finally have a daughter. And I have a mom, I whispered back. A real one. Jennifer handed us the official documents. My new birth certificate listed Olivia O'Sullivan as my mother. Father unknown. It was strange seeing it in black and white, the erasure of David Chun from my official record. But it felt right. Afterward, we had a small celebration at Olivia's house. Daniel's parents, our closest friends, some of Olivia's neighbors who'd become like aunts and uncles to me. Someone had made a cake that said officially family. Elena Rodriguez hugged Olivia tight. Welcome to the family, comadre. Sarah chose well. We chose each other, Olivia said, smiling. Thomas was being passed around the room, gurgling happily at all the attention. At one point, he reached for Olivia, making grabby hands. She scooped him up. Hello, my grandson, she said softly. Now it's official. I'm your grandmother in the eyes of the law. I watched them together and felt something settle in my chest. This was my family. Not perfect, not traditional, but real. Built on choice and love and showing up. That night, after everyone had gone home, Olivia and I sat on her porch with tea. The same porch where we'd sat so many times over the past 3 years, talking about everything and nothing. How do you feel? She asked. Complete, I said. For the first time in my life, I feel like I have a mother who sees me. I do see you, sweetheart. And I'm so proud of you. Thank you, Mom. The word felt natural now. Right. Can I tell you something? Olivia set down her tea. When Patrick died, I thought my life was over. My children had their own families across the country. I was alone in this big house with nothing but memories. I was just existing, not living. She took my hand. Then I met a young woman crying on a park bench. And suddenly, I had a reason to get up in the morning. Someone to cook for, to care about, to love. You didn't just gain a mother, Sarah. I gained a daughter. You saved me too. I hugged her tight. We saved each other. For 6 months, life was peaceful. I didn't hear from David and Susan Chin. The restraining order held. They stayed away. My design business was growing. Daniel had been promoted to lead teacher. We'd moved into a 2-bedroom apartment, still small but better than the studio. Thomas was thriving, hitting every milestone, surrounded by love. Olivia had officially changed her will, leaving everything to me and Thomas. My other children will understand, she'd said. They have their own lives. You're here. Your family. I'd tried to protest, but she was firm. This is what I want. Then, one rainy November afternoon, everything changed again. I was at Olivia's house, as I was most Sundays. Thomas was napping in the portable crib we kept there. Olivia and I were in the kitchen making her mother's apple pie recipe when the doorbell rang. I'll get it, Olivia said, wiping flour from her hands. I heard the door open. Then Olivia's voice, sharp and firm. You need to leave. Now. I walked to the foyer. My mother stood on the porch, drenched from the rain. She looked smaller than I remembered. Thinner. Older. Please, she said. I just need to talk to her. You have a restraining order, Olivia said. You're not supposed to be here. I know. But I'm desperate. My mother looked past Olivia to me. Sarah, please. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I should have called the police. That's what the lawyer would have told me to do. But something in my mother's face stopped me. She looked broken. It's okay, Mom, I said to Olivia. Let her in. Olivia frowned but stepped aside. My mother entered, dripping water on the hardwood floor. She looked around at Olivia's beautiful home, at the photos on the walls. Me and Olivia baking. Thomas's first smile. Daniel and me at Christmas. Nice house, she said quietly. What do you want, Mom? I kept my voice neutral. Your father had a heart attack. My breath caught. What? Last week. He's okay, he's stable, but… She looked down at her hands. The doctor said it was stress. All the stress of the past 3 years. I felt Olivia move closer to me. Protective. I'm sorry to hear that, I said carefully. But why are you here? Because it made me realize something. My mother's voice cracked. We're getting older. Your father almost died. And we've missed 3 years of your life. 3 years we can never get back. You chose that. I know. She looked at me, really looked at me. I know we did. And I'm not here to make excuses. I'm here to apologize. I'd heard her apologize before. In the coffee shop. But this felt different. I was wrong, she continued. About everything. About Daniel, about the ultimatum, about trying to control your life. I was so focused on what I thought was right that I couldn't see I was losing you. She took a step closer. That day in court, when the judge said we couldn't see you or Thomas, when she said we'd lost the right to be his grandparents. I finally understood. We didn't lose you in court, Sarah. We lost you years before that. We lost you every time we chose our pride over your happiness. Tears ran down her face, mixing with the rain. Your father said something in the hospital. He said, I don't want to die knowing our daughter hates us. And I realized you don't hate us. You just don't need us anymore. And that's worse. I didn't know what to say. I see what you've built here. She gestured around. With Olivia, with Daniel, with your friends. You have a family. A real family. One that chose you. And I'm happy for you. I really am. But I'm also heartbroken because we could have been that for you. We should have been. Olivia spoke, her voice gentle but firm. Susan, why are you really here? My mother looked at her, this woman who'd become the mother she never was. I'm not asking for a relationship, she said. I know I don't deserve that. I'm just asking Sarah to know that I'm sorry. Truly sorry. Not because I want something from her, but because she deserves to hear it. She pulled an envelope from her purse. This is from both of us. Your father wanted me to give it to you. It's not a check or a bribe or anything like that. Just a letter. You don't have to read it. You can throw it away. But I needed to give it to you. She set the envelope on the hall table. I'll go now. I'm sorry for violating the restraining order. I needed you to know. She turned toward the door. Wait. She stopped. I didn't know what I was going to say until the words came out. Did you mean it? Everything you just said. She turned back, tears streaming. Every word. Sarah, you were never the problem. We were. We were so worried about what other people would think, about maintaining appearances, about control. We forgot to actually love you the way you needed to be loved. Why didn't you tell me that 3 years ago? Or 2 years ago? Or at any point before now? Pride. She said it simply. Stupid, destructive pride. And by the time I realized how wrong I was, I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't think you'd ever forgive me. I don't know if I can, I said honestly. I know, and I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking you to know that I'm sorry and that I love you. The real you, even though I never showed it the way I should have. She left. I stood in the hallway holding the envelope, watching through the window as she got into her car and drove away. Olivia put her arm around me. Are you okay? I don't know. That night, after Daniel picked up Thomas and went home, after I'd helped Olivia clean up the kitchen, I sat alone in her living room and opened the envelope. 2 letters inside. One from my mother, one from my father. I read my mother's first. Dear Sarah, I've started this letter 100 times. Every version feels inadequate. How do you apologize for years of hurt in a few pages? How do you explain the inexplicable? I loved you from the moment you were born. But somewhere along the way, I confused love with control. I thought if I could plan your life perfectly, if I could protect you from every mistake, I was being a good mother. I didn't realize I was suffocating you. When you chose Daniel, I felt like you were rejecting everything I'd tried to give you. Security, stability, a good future. I couldn't see that what I was offering wasn't what you needed. You needed freedom. You needed to be seen. You needed a mother who listened instead of commanded. I was angry for a long time. Angry that you didn't appreciate my sacrifices. Angry that you chose love over logic. But watching your father in that hospital bed, seeing how fragile life is, I realized something. You were right. You were right about everything. Daniel makes you happy. I saw it in that coffee shop, even though I didn't want to admit it. He looks at you like you're the most important person in the world. He respects you. He partners with you. He chose you when we gave you an ultimatum. And Olivia. Sarah, when that judge talked about her, when I saw the photos in her house, I realized she gave you what I never could. Unconditional love. No strings, no demands, no expectations except that you be yourself. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking to be part of your life. I just want you to know that I see you now. The real you. And she's remarkable. You built a beautiful life from nothing. You're a wonderful mother. You're strong and kind and brave. I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago. I should have said it every day. I love you, Sarah. Not who I wanted you to be. Not who I tried to make you. Just you. Mom. I set it down, tears blurring my vision. Then I picked up my father's letter. Sarah, I was never good with words. Your mother always did the talking for both of us. But she's right. We were wrong. When I was lying in that hospital bed, when the doctor said I'd had a heart attack, my first thought wasn't about my business or my house or any of the things I thought mattered. It was about you. I thought about teaching you to ride a bike when you were 6. How proud you were when you finally did it without training wheels. I thought about your high school graduation, how you gave that speech about perseverance, and the whole auditorium stood up and clapped. I thought about dropping you off at Stanford, how you hugged me and said, "I'll make you proud, Dad." You did make me proud, Sarah. Every single day. But I never told you that. I only told you where you fell short. I became the kind of father I swore I'd never be. My father was cold and demanding. Nothing was ever good enough. I told myself I'd be different with my children. But I became exactly like him. I gave you an ultimatum because I thought I was protecting you. I thought Daniel would lead you to poverty and struggle. I couldn't see that what you'd have with him was worth more than any bank account. I was a coward. I stood by while your mother hurt you. I let her speak for both of us because it was easier than standing up to her. And when you needed me to choose you, I chose the path of least resistance. I know it's too late. I know we've lost you. But I want you to know that you were always good enough. You were always more than enough. The problem was never you. It was us. Be happy, Sarah. Love that little boy. Keep building your beautiful life. You don't need us. You never did. I'm sorry I didn't realize that sooner. Dad. I sat there for a long time, holding both letters, crying quietly. Olivia came in and sat beside me. She didn't ask what the letters said. She just held my hand and waited. They said they're sorry, I finally whispered. They said I was right. About everything. How do you feel? I don't know. Relieved? Sad. Angry that it took my father almost dying for them to see it. All of those feelings are valid. Do you think I should forgive them? Olivia was quiet for a moment. I think forgiveness isn't a gift you give them. It's a gift you give yourself. Whether you want a relationship with them again, that's a separate question. I don't know if I do. You don't have to decide today. Or tomorrow. Or ever. They hurt you, Sarah. You get to protect yourself. I looked at my mom, Olivia, my real mom, and felt grateful all over again for her wisdom. What would you do? I asked. She smiled softly. I'd trust your gut. It's gotten you this far. I didn't respond to the letters. Not right away. I put them in a drawer and went back to my life. To Daniel and Thomas and Olivia. To Sunday dinners and bedtime stories and the beautiful, ordinary moments that make up a real family. But the letters stayed in my mind. 2 months later, on a cold January morning, I made a decision. I called my mother. She answered on the first ring. Sarah. Her voice was breathless, hopeful, scared. Hi, Mom. Silence. Then a sob. You called. I read your letters. Both of them. And I took a deep breath. And I believe you're sorry. I believe you've realized what you did wrong. But I need you to understand something. Anything. Sorry doesn't erase 3 years. Sorry doesn't undo the damage. Sorry is just words until it's backed up by action. I know. If, and this is a big if, I decide to let you back into my life, it will be on my terms. Completely. You don't get to have opinions about how I raised Thomas. You don't get to criticize Daniel. You don't get to make demands or set conditions. You show up, you respect boundaries, or you don't come at all. I understand. And Olivia is my mother. Legally and in every way that matters. That doesn't change. Ever. You don't get to compete with her or make me choose. She's family. If you can't accept that, we stop right here. There was a long pause. Then, I can accept that. She's been the mother you needed. I won't take that from you. One more thing. This is a probation period. You get one chance. 1. If you revert to old patterns, If you try to control or manipulate or guilt me, we're done. Permanently. No second chances. Okay. Her voice was small. Okay. I'm going to talk to Daniel and Olivia. If they're comfortable with it, we'll arrange a meeting. Supervised. In a public place. You and Dad can meet Thomas. But it's a visit, not a relationship. You have to earn that. We will. I promise. We'll do whatever it takes. We'll see. I hung up and sat for a moment, my hands shaking. Daniel came into the room. You called them? Yeah. How do you feel? Terrified. Like I just opened a door I might not be able to close again. He sat beside me. If they hurt you again, we close it together. You're not alone in this. I know. That evening, I went to Olivia's house. Just me, without Daniel or Thomas. I needed to have this conversation alone. We sat in her kitchen, the same place we'd had so many important talks. I told her everything. The phone call. The conditions I'd set. The possibility of letting my parents back in. Olivia listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Are you angry? I asked. Do you think I'm making a mistake? No, sweetheart. I'm not angry. And I don't think it's a mistake. Really? She took my hand. Sarah, you're not choosing between them and me. You're choosing to see if reconciliation is possible. That takes tremendous courage. What if they haven't really changed? Then you'll know. And you'll have Daniel and me and everyone who truly loves you. But what if they have changed? What if your father's heart attack really did wake them up? Don't you deserve to find out? I'm scared. Of course you are. But you're also strong enough to protect yourself now. You have boundaries. You have people who will support you no matter what. You're not that scared girl from 3 years ago. What if this hurts you? What if they try to push you out? Olivia smiled. Sarah, I'm your legal mother. I'm Thomas's legal grandmother. I've been there for every important moment. They can't take that from me. And more importantly, you won't let them. I trust you. I hugged her tight. I love you, Mom. I love you too, sweetheart. Whatever you decide, I'm here. The first meeting was scheduled for a Saturday afternoon at a cafe near the Presidio. Neutral territory. Daniel and Olivia came with me. Thomas was almost a year old now, babbling and trying to walk, grabbing everything in sight. My parents arrived exactly on time. They both looked older, more uncertain. My father walked slower, his hand over his chest occasionally like he was checking his heartbeat. We sat at a large outdoor table. Awkward. Tense. My mother couldn't take her eyes off Thomas. He's beautiful. Thank you. He looks like you did at that age. Same eyes. An olive branch. A connection. I let her have it. Mom, Dad, this is my husband Daniel. You met briefly before, but not really. Daniel extended his hand. Mr. and Mrs. Chun. My father shook it firmly. Call me David. Please. And I owe you an apology. Several, actually. Daniel nodded. I appreciate that. And this, I gestured to Olivia, is my mother, Olivia O'Sullivan. The word hung in the air. Mother. My mother flinched slightly but recovered. It's nice to meet you. Thank you for being there for Sarah when we weren't. Olivia's voice was kind but firm. Someone needed to be. For the next hour, we talked. Carefully. My parents asked questions about Thomas, about our lives. They didn't criticize. They didn't offer unsolicited advice. They just listened. My father told us about his heart attack. The doctor said I need to reduce stress. Let go of things I can't control. It made me realize I'd spent my whole life trying to control everything, including you, Sarah. And all it got me was this. He tapped his chest. I'm glad you're okay, Dad. I'm trying to be better. At everything. Toward the end, my mother asked quietly, Could we hold him? Just for a moment. I looked at Daniel. He gave a slight nod. I looked at Olivia. She smiled encouragingly. Okay, just for a minute. I placed Thomas in my mother's arms. She held him like he was made of glass, tears streaming down her face. Hello, Thomas, she whispered. I'm your grandmother. One of them. Thomas grabbed her pearls and tried to put them in his mouth. Everyone laughed. The tension broke just a little. My father reached out and touched Thomas's tiny hand. He's perfect. He is, I agreed. When it was time to go, my mother handed Thomas back reluctantly. Thank you, she said, for giving us this chance. This isn't forgiveness, I said gently. Not yet. This is just a beginning. Maybe. I understand. Over the next 6 months, we met once a month. Always supervised. Always in public. My parents were different. Not perfect, Old habits surfaced occasionally. My mother would start to offer parenting advice, then catch herself. My father would begin to suggest a better career path for me, then stop mid-sentence and apologize. But they were trying, really trying. They sent birthday cards with personal notes, not checks. They asked about Olivia and actually listened when I talked about her. They treated Daniel with respect, asking about his students, his work, his dreams. Slowly, carefully, a new kind of relationship formed. Not the one from before. That was dead and buried. This was something else. Tentative. Fragile. Built on honesty instead of obligation. One Sunday, I invited them to Olivia's house for dinner. The first time both sets of parents would be in the same room. I was terrified, but Olivia set the tone immediately. When my parents arrived, she greeted them warmly. David, Susan. Welcome. Thank you for coming. My mother looked around at Olivia's home, at all the photos of me and Thomas covering the walls. You have a beautiful home. Thank you. Sarah helped me decorate most of it. She has an excellent eye. We sat down to dinner. Olivia had made her famous pot roast. My parents complimented everything. The conversation was stilted at first, but then my father asked Olivia about her volunteer work. She told stories about the families she'd helped over the years. My parents listened, genuinely interested. You've dedicated your life to helping people, my mother said quietly. That's admirable. Someone has to, Olivia replied. Too many people fall through the cracks. There was a moment of understanding. My mother knew she was one of those people who'd let someone fall through the cracks. Her own daughter. After dinner, my mother helped Olivia clean up while the men took Thomas to the backyard. I watched from the kitchen doorway as the two women worked side by side. Olivia, my mother said, washing a plate. I want to thank you. For what? For loving my daughter when I couldn't. When I wouldn't. Olivia dried her hands and looked at my mother directly. I don't want your thanks. I want you to keep being the mother Sarah needs now. She's giving you a second chance. Don't waste it. I won't. I promise. Promises are easy. Follow through is what matters. I know. My mother's voice cracked. I'm trying. I'm really trying. I can see that. Just keep trying. That's all any of us can do. 2 years passed. 2 years of monthly visits that became bi-weekly, then weekly. 2 years of my parents proving slowly that they'd changed. They attended Thomas's second birthday party. They cheered at his first steps. They sent thoughtful gifts for no reason. They respected boundaries. They built trust piece by piece. Daniel's parents visited from Arizona, and we had both sets of grandparents together. Olivia and Elena became fast friends. My parents were more reserved, but kind, respectful. One evening, my father asked if he could speak to me privately. We walked in Olivia's garden while everyone else was inside. Sarah, I need to tell you something. My stomach clenched. Okay, I've been seeing a therapist. For the past year. I blinked. You have. Your mother and I both have. Separately and together. We're working on a lot of things. The control issues. The perfectionism. The way we treated you. Dad, let me finish. Please. He stopped walking and faced me. I realized something in therapy. I treated you the way my father treated me. And I swore I'd never do that. But I did. And I'm sorry. I'm so deeply sorry. I know you are. But sorry isn't enough. I need to change. We both do. And we are. Slowly. I saw tears in his eyes. My stoic father crying in a garden. I'm proud of you, Sarah. I should have said that 1,000 times. You're an incredible mother. And talented designer. A strong woman. You built this beautiful life without any help from us. That takes courage I'm not sure I have. Dad, I was crying now too. I know I can't undo the past. But I want to be part of your future. If you'll let me. Not as the father who tried to control you. As a father who supports you. Who shows up. Who loves you without conditions. I hugged him. For the first time in years, I hugged my father and felt something other than hurt. We can try, I whispered. We can keep trying. By the time Thomas turned 3, my life looked nothing like I'd imagined and everything like I'd dreamed. Daniel and I bought a small house in the Richmond district, just 10 minutes from Olivia. My design business was thriving. Daniel was teaching and coaching Little League on weekends. Olivia was over constantly. Sunday dinners, weeknight babysitting, holidays. She was grandma in every way. Thomas called her Gamma Maggie, and it was the sweetest thing I'd ever heard. My parents visited too. Less frequently, but regularly. They'd learned their role. They were grandparents, not parents. They followed my lead. They respected boundaries. One Thanksgiving, 4 years after that first one where I'd been alone in a restaurant, we hosted dinner at our house. Both sets of parents, Daniel's siblings who'd flown in, our closest friends. 20 people crammed into our small dining room. Before we ate, I stood up to make a toast. For years ago, I began. I thought I'd lost everything. I'd been cut off from my family. I was struggling financially. I was scared and alone. Or at least I thought I was alone. I looked at Olivia. Then I met a woman on a park bench who offered me a tissue and changed my life. She showed me what family really means. Not obligation. Not control. Just love. Pure, unconditional love. Olivia wiped her eyes. I looked at Daniel. And I married a man who chose me every single day. Who built a life with me from nothing. Who showed me that partnership means respect and equality and being seen. Then I looked at my parents. My mother was crying. My father's jaw was tight with emotion. And over the past 2 years, I've watched two people work incredibly hard to change. To become the parents I needed them to be. It hasn't been easy. And we're not perfect. But we're here. Together. And that means something. I raised my glass. To family. The one we're born into, the one we choose, and the one we rebuild. To second chances. To growth. To showing up. To love in all its messy, complicated, beautiful forms. To family, everyone echoed. Thomas banged his sippy cup on the table, making everyone laugh. After dinner, I found myself in the kitchen with both my mothers. Olivia was slicing pie. My birth mother was making coffee. Sarah, my birth mother said quietly, "Can I tell you something?" "Of course." "I used to be jealous of Olivia. Seeing how much you love her, how much Thomas adores her. It hurt." Olivia paused her slicing, listening. "But I've realized something. I'm not jealous anymore. I'm grateful. She gave you what I couldn't. And instead of losing you completely, I get to be here. I get to be part of this. Because she's generous enough to share you." She looked at Olivia. "Thank you. For loving my daughter. For being the mother she deserved." Olivia set down the knife and hugged her. "She deserves all the love. From everyone. There's enough room in her heart for all of us." I watched them, these two women who'd both shaped my life in such different ways, and felt something settle in my chest. Peace. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Daniel and I tucked Thomas into bed. He was exhausted from playing with his cousins all day. "Story, Mama," he mumbled sleepily. "Which story, baby?" "The one about the park bench." I smiled. We'd told him, in simple terms, the story of how Gamma Maggie became part of our family. He loved it. "Once upon a time," I began, "there was a girl who felt very alone. She sat on a park bench and cried because she thought nobody loved her. But then Gamma Maggie came," Thomas said, his eyes drooping. "That's right. Gamma Maggie came and offered her a tissue. And do you know what she said? She said, 'You're not alone.' Yes. And the girl realized that family isn't just the people you're born to. Family is the people who choose you, who show up, who love you exactly as you are." Thomas yawned. "And then they lived happily ever after." "Yes, baby. They did." He was asleep before I finished the sentence. Daniel and I stood in the doorway, watching our son sleep. "He's going to grow up knowing he's loved," Daniel whispered. "By so many people." "He is. You did that, Sarah. You built this family. We built it. All of us. If you're watching this and you've ever been cut off by your family, told you weren't good enough, or made to feel like you had to earn love, I want you to know something. You deserve to be chosen. Not because you're perfect. Not because you did everything right. Just because you exist. Family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about finding the people who see you, who show up, who love you without conditions. I spent 26 years trying to be good enough for people who would never think I was. Then I spent 4 years building a family that chose me from day one. Both my biological parents and I did the work to heal. That doesn't happen for everyone, and that's okay. You don't owe anyone a relationship just because you share DNA. You're allowed to protect your peace. But you're also allowed to hope. To try. To set boundaries and see if people can respect them. To give second chances if you want to. Not because you have to, but because you choose to. The life I have now, the love, the family, the peace, it all started with one person being kind to me on a park bench. One stranger who saw me crying and decided I mattered. You matter too. Thank you so much for being here until the very end. If my story touched you in any way, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to rebuild your family from scratch? Have you found your people after losing the ones you were born to? Share your experience in the comments. I read every single one. And if you're still searching for your family, for your people, for the ones who will choose you, don't give up. They're out there. Sometimes they're sitting on a park bench, feeding pigeons, waiting to offer you a tissue and change your life. Until next time, remember, you deserve to be chosen. You deserve to belong. You deserve love that doesn't come with conditions.